Hi guys, and today I've got for you the Ford Puma. Hang on, haven't I already reviewed the Puma? Yes, I have, and the link is above here or in the description below. But while that was a regular Puma, I say regular, but actually it was the ST line with the 155 brake horsepower engine. This one's a little bit different, and the clue is in the number plate. ST67 Fun. Fun's very appropriate for this car, and if the 67 was the 68, it would have been very appropriate for me. Why? Tell me in the comments below. But of course, that's not the only thing that marks this out as actually the ST version of the Puma. There's lots of aggressive bits on it, blacked out bits on it, as you can see, including this front end, which benefits from this Ford Performance splitter. There's ST badging, like I said, the blacked out roof, the blacked out rear spoiler, also the rear diffuser, and it's got 19-inch magnetized machined alloy wheels shod with Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. That's quite something, right? So this car is obviously based on the Fiesta as the Puma is, and this is linked to the Fiesta ST, so it gets the same 1.5 3-cylinder turbocharged EcoBoost engine out of that car with the same around 200 brake horsepower, but in that case it's 214 pounds-foot of torque. In this case it's 236 pounds-foot of torque. They've eked a little bit more out of it. Why? Well, it's a little bit heavier, about 100 kilograms heavier, but by doing that they've matched the 0 to 62 miles per hour acceleration of 6.7 seconds with that car. It's the same. This one reaches 137 miles per hour. Fuel consumption is quoted as just over 41 miles per gallon, although I suspect that if you drive it as you're supposed to, you'll be lucky to see that. Emissions is obviously higher on this car than the other Puma that I reviewed. I think that was about 100 grams per kilometer. This is 155 grams per kilometer. These start at just under 29,000 pounds or so. Now with this car, because it is so similar, apart from obviously the spec to the Puma that I already reviewed, I'm not going to go into the detailed look as I do in terms of practicality and stuff, but I will say that the boot looks to be the same, with the same split level floor and that underfloor deep bin with the drainage hole at the bottom of it. In terms of the rear passenger space, I think it's slightly less than I remember from the other Puma. Trying to sit behind myself, obviously I'm 6'2" with long legs, and that wasn't entirely that capacious, but it was okay. I think that the bigger Recaro seats in this car, which actually I also taken from the Fiesta ST, probably take a couple of millimeters away from the rear passenger space. Other than that, in the front there are a little bit more clues as to this being an ST. We'll look at that when we get in there, but first of all, and of course we're going to take it for the all-important drive. I think that's really what you want to see, right? First of all, make sure that you're subscribing to youtube.com/browncarguy, browncarguy.com, and of course follow me on all the social media platforms. Just search for my hashtag, which is #browncarguy, and if you enjoy my content, you can sponsor it and support it over at patreon.com/browncarguy. I hope to see you there. Cool, let's get into this. So here we are, and as you can see, that's fantastic glowing Puma, but also in this one you get the ST badge coming up on the main screen there, and if I just go wide angle, I go keyless start, and you can see what happens next. That continues to glow and that comes up. So basically, you know, as I was saying, this is very similar to the other one. There's a few little differences which I'll go through. You'll notice here the S sports button there and the mode. So it's got the same modes pretty much as the other one did, except for one additional one I'll show you. First of all, I'll show you what happens when you press the sport mode. Let's just press OK to get rid of that. The trip meter and everything is the same. As you see, I've been getting 37.4 miles per gallon out of this, and that was on a long trip. So like I said, that's actually quite good for this car. Pressing the sports button, everything goes red and you get sports, and then you get red highlights on the dials and stuff like that. So that's all quite good. The additional modes, so if I press mode button here, you've got obviously the sport mode, and then you've got racetrack. The Puma ST compact family SUV racetrack, and it actually says, if I click on it again, racetrack use only. You're going to take your Puma on the race? I suppose you could go to a track day. You could go to a track day if you wanted to. Anyway, so it's got that. It's also got eco mode, which nobody cares about, and normal mode will start off in that one. So like I said, you got the ST badge here. Doesn't have the red stitching that the other car had. It has a nice thick rim steering wheel with the mottled texture here. You've got ST badges on the carpets. You've obviously got the ST on the inscribed on the seats and the big Recaro seats. Now the Recaro seats, the good thing about them is that they are comfy, and they do hold with these big side bolsters. They really hold you in place, so that's a good thing about these cars when you're generating those high G, when you're in the racetrack mode, obviously on a racetrack, you know. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. I'm not going to go into details, but it's got the same interface, same everything, same Bang & Olufsen 10-speaker sound system, the charger. You've got red accents on the gear shift indicator of where the gears are, same cup holders and all the rest of it down here. In terms of the spec, this one's got the ST Performance Pack, limited slip differential, LSD, which is LSD, launch control, performance shift light indicator. It's also got torque vectoring on this one, and there you can see all of the flat bottom steering wheel and all the rest of it. And this one apparently has got 25% quicker steering on this car. It's got larger brake discs on it, 50% stiffer rear twist beams, and I already said that the Puma was stiffer than the Fiesta as it is. And then it's got, well, it's slightly softer setup. We'll see that on the road as we go. A slightly quieter exhaust, and it's 3 centimeters higher, obviously, than the Fiesta ST. Otherwise, that's pretty much all there is to say about it. The next thing is to take it for a drive. Right then, here we go in the Puma ST. This is in normal mode at the moment. Oh, okay. Pressing the S button immediately improves the throttle response. You kind of get a kick forward straight away. Or not so much a kick, it's kind of like an unleashing. It's kind of like an unleashing of, it's unsheathing the sword of attack is how you could describe. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, a crossover family compact SUV thingy-me-jig. It shouldn't really be doing this, should it? But boy, it's quick and it's competent. It doesn't feel too high in terms of center of gravity. It feels fairly planted. It feels fairly settled and flat. They've done a lot of work to the suspension. Of course, that means that there's a little bit of a compromise in the ride comfort compared to the regular Puma. But it's not too bad. It's not like something it hasn't gotten suddenly hardcore aggressive. It's still relatively softer than say a Fiesta ST. But oh my goodness, it's devouring these corners at some speed. Very grippy, very stable, and the road is quite bumpy as well. One of the things about it I found just previously is that there is a tendency to understeer, but the torque vectoring, what it seems to do is as it starts to understeer, it sort of goes, oh no, I'm not supposed to do that. It suddenly remembers and it kind of pulls it back in to the corner to stop it from doing that, which is a very interesting experience. So you think that initially you think it's going to behave like a typical compact little SUV, but then it doesn't, you know. So it's that sort of thing. But the sheer performance of it, wow, okay, yeah, I mean, it builds up speed very quickly, plenty of torque, and the torque is like there straight away from the moment you want it. Gear change is very good, very, very good. It slots straight into place. You hardly ever miss a change. If you miss a change, it's your own fault, my fault. But as it is, it's not too long a throw, fits into its slots very, very well. Quite intuitive. The clutch point is very good. I can't really find anything to complain about in terms of the pedal. In fact, it's even possible, with maybe a little bit more practice than I've had, to heel and toe in this car. And the heel and toe is something that it does actually benefit from. One of the things that I found with the steering, it certainly weightens up when you put it into sports mode, which is good. I like a bit of heft, but it gets a little bit springy towards the center. So it's kind of weird. Normally you don't mind that sort of stuff. Self-centering is good. It just feels a little bit artificial in this car. So it's kind of like I'm almost fighting it a little bit. And it shouldn't feel like that. It should feel natural. But other than that, not an issue. I have found the clutch take up sometimes in town at lower speeds to be a little clumsy, and that's maybe not so much me, but I suspect that this car, because being a press car, has been driven quite spiritedly, if you like, on more than a few occasions, and that's probably what has led to that. Brakes are really, really good. There's no issue whatsoever with the brakes, and they're very well judged. So they're linear. Oh, nice! Right up against the limiter. Makes an interesting noise. It's not as loud, from what I know. It's a little bit quieter than the Fiesta, but also it doesn't feel as loud. But from inside the cabin, you do get a nice bit of noise from that engine, and you do get sort of the charisma of the engine does sort of come through. Now we are on an extremely bumpy road. Let's see how the suspension copes. Again, the suspension has been set up slightly stiffer than the regular Puma. Now, having said that, that means that you would expect it to be a little bit race car-like and a little bit maybe compromised for something that's meant to be a family SUV. Now, this is an extraordinarily bumpy road, so if you're seeing me move around a lot, that's why. But having said that, this movement could have been jarring and harsher because of the nature of this road. Yes, I am moving. Yes, because the car is stiffly set up. But no, it's not uncomfortable, and it is managing to soak up those bumps, and really the compression is quite composed and considered, so it's not like abrupt or jarring or anything like that. Now, while sports mode is a hoot, I have mostly been driving it around in normal mode, again because of at lower speeds, at normal speeds, the regular steering is lighter. I mean, it's still got a fair bit of weight to it, even in the normal mode, so that's quite good. I mean, its natural inclination is towards heft and a simulation of feel, if you like. But it seems fine. It does feel a little highly strung if you leave it in sports mode around town. So thereby, when I've put it into sport mode a few times, I've actually taken it back and put it into normal because it didn't really seem necessary. Also, I seem to have spent a lot of time in traffic in this car, so that's why another reason not to have had it in sports mode. Visibility is never an issue in this car. You are sitting quite high and tall, considering that you are in, you can be fooled into believing that you're in a hot hatch. This is kind of the impression overall that you're getting as you're driving this car, until you realize that you're sitting a few inches, a considerable few inches higher than you would be sitting in a hot hatch. That's not to say that it's uncomfortable, it's just to say that it gives you a good vantage point, and it's not to say that the car is rolling about or leaning too much either. It's not. It's very well composed, and this is where, that stiffening, I mean, again, like just trying to just dart the front of the car into the corner, and, it's not rolling, it's not leaning, it's just kind of moving. Yes, there's a slight, you can't defy the laws of physics, but compared to what you might expect it to be, it's very well composed, and that really kind of sums up its dynamic behavior. If you're having a play, it's definitely worth keeping it in the 3,000 RPM and above range. That's kind of where it seems to do its best work, and it's where it seems to be happiest in what it's doing. But overall, I mean, you're never left with a gap. You're never left wanting for torque or acceleration in this car. Certainly not at city speeds or even at B-road speeds. What's it like on the motorway? Well, let's find that out. Let's head over to the motorway. We're just going to do that in a minute. So now we're getting up to a little bit of speed on the dual carriageway. I feel that it doesn't really need to be in sports mode now. I mean, it's not like it's lacking whatsoever in any kind of performance when it's not in sports mode. It still feels plenty quick and plenty alert and plenty up for it, if you see what I mean. It's just that in sports, it's just sort of more defined about its purpose and what it wants to do and what it wants to, how it wants to behave. So I've set it on cruise control now that we're on the motorway, and it doesn't have active cruise control, unlike the other Puma that I tried, but it does have cruise control. It has a limiter and all the rest of it. It's very easy to manage just from the steering control buttons here. It's very smooth now on the motorway, even though there is a little bit of bounce and a little bit of movement, a little bit more than you would expect It's doing a little bit of a bobbing thing. It's tracking really straight. I mean, I can take my hands off the wheel, although it hasn't, got the... I mean, I'm sure it does have... doesn't appear to do anything. It's very... I like the way that this car feels a little bit more manual. You feel like you're really in control of it and you're doing things rather than it's doing things, even though, it's got the LSD and the torque vectoring voodoo going on. But it seems to be more about the driver and letting you actually be in charge of the vehicle, which is something that I really like, obviously. Having said that, considering, on the other hand, I was considering whether or not it brings that much more to the party that you should choose this over, say, the 155 brake horsepower Puma that I tried, which seemed to be plenty quick enough and enjoyable enough and all the rest of it, and actually better equipped because you spent a bit more on it than this car, although the price differential is not as great. I mean, if I was to say that there's £5,000 difference between this car and the regular Puma, then I would very clearly say to you that I don't think it's necessarily worth that difference, unless that's all you're about is attacking B roads at every opportunity. And even in that case, the regular Puma did a pretty good job of that. So if the price differential was that much, I would say that, stick with the regular Puma. The price differential is like $1,000 to a couple of grand, a couple of grand really. So it's almost worth stepping up into this. And I'm kind of torn at the moment between having a regular one and more spec, or spending a bit more and having this greater performance. Even the fuel economy, and to be honest, it hasn't been that thirsty, really, compared to what I thought it would be. I mean, it's still showing me just over 35 miles per gallon. Even driving it enthusiastically, I don't seem to have used that much fuel, and even I've done a longer trip in it, and it didn't seem to use that much fuel. So economically, it is quite feasible as well. So overall then, I would be very tempted by this car. I would be very tempted, but I still would have to really justify it over the regular Puma, because I thought the regular Puma was really that good. And that engine, the mild hybrid with the reduced emissions, I mean, again, that's another thing you got to consider in terms of the CO2 and the taxes that you pay for that, and etc., etc. All things considered, that regular Puma, the 155 brake horsepower Puma, I think is really all the Puma that you need. It's all the Puma that you need. This is all the Puma that you want. So it's like that. If you want to go the extra distance with the money and also with the performance, then yes, by all means go for this. But if you get the regular one with an ST line package and all the rest of it, honestly, I don't think you're losing that much. You're still going to have all of the great attributes of this car and part of the enjoyment factor as well. So there you go. There's my review of the Ford Puma ST. Let me know what you think of the ST and how you feel about it in the comments above and below and elsewhere. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, make sure you're subscribing to youtube.com/browncarguy and hit the bell icon and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. Whilst you're at it, subscribe to browncarguy.com and follow me on social media by just searching for my hashtag. That's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even on TikTok. If you love my content, then please consider sponsoring and supporting it, and you can do that over at patreon.com/browncarguy. And you know what? You can use my platforms to promote your product, service, or brand. My YouTube channel is now closing in on 3,000 subscribers as I record this. Total views are nearly 500,000, and the reach just over the last month is nearly 1 million. So join these amazing people as my patrons, including Mohammed Umaid in the UAE, Partha in India, a tech guru and social media consultant. Find him on parthans.com. Tom Conway Gordon here in the UK, Isaac Beauchard in the US. He's got some great deals on cool cars at bespokeautos.com. Reza Adil, check him out at Alizadeh Cigars on Instagram. Mohammed Qasim, business consultant. You can find him at wehms.com. Siraj Abbasi at Tiles Italia on Instagram for luxury floor and wall tiling. Mark Waddell in Canada. Zach Kogiani, a globe-trotting pilot with amazing images for sale at zachkogiani.com. And last but not least, my school champ Shaheer Hakki. Thanks for watching. More cool vids on the way. Catch you again in the next one.